Alvin, you're new, right? I don't think I've heard from you before. Do you mind introducing yourself? If you're speaking, we cannot hear. At least I cannot.
Yeah. There's lots of activity on Alvin's microphone, just none of it.
If you're speaking, we cannot hear. At least I cannot.
Oh no. Yeah, sorry. I've got the YouTube going. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. So anyway, Alvin, thanks for introducing. We can't hear you. So if you just introduce in chat, that'll work.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay. My name is Alvin. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm a front-end engineer and developer, and also a product designer. Hello?
Alvin, that's fantastic, man. Welcome. Good of you to drop in. There's a bunch of, and it's so great to hear that you were into product design. There's so much need for that kind of a thing around here. So we'll have to point some of it out to the extent that you want to get your fingers dirty, or your hands dirty.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anosh, do you want to introduce yourself to the community? I assume this is your first community call, right? Anyone else who's new and wants to introduce themselves? I can see Rudra, Osama.
It's like pulling fingernails.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hi, Rudra.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rudra Prashadas. So, I have applied this Layer5, through CNC, basically the LFX mentorship program. So I'm not good. I'm more towards machine learning engineer. I'm learning the key aspect that is required in this Layer5 community, like the front-end engineer and React at Golang. So looking forward to contribute to projects.
Welcome to the community.
Yeah, thanks.
Anyone else? Otherwise, we'll move on with the minutes. Okay, so I think we should move on. So in this call, we basically plan to give all of you a brief overview of all the Layer5 projects and focus on the areas where you can get involved. And, you can we'll have members from the community who are already involved talking about these areas, and you can see if this suits you. Starting with basically, we had the newcomers call yesterday. It happens every Thursday. And there are a lot of workshops and a lot of tutorials which are conducted from time to time on this call. The past recordings are available on our YouTube channel. You can look at them, but we maintain a list for you guys to write down what tutorials you want in the future. So if you have anything in mind, and if you want to know more about something, you can add the topics here, and we'll find someone from the community to conduct tutorials for you so that we can help you out. It's not necessarily for newcomers. Anyone who's been here for a long time, but you want to delve into another area of the project, you can write down what is it that you think will help you get started. So that is about these tutorials. Moving on. Okay, so I hope this link is accessible to all of you. And is there any other questions regarding this? Just pause for a minute in case there is. Okay, so the next thing is that we have a lot of resources available on our website. So if you come to Layer5 website, if you go here to learn, we have books, workshops, learning paths, and interactive labs. So these are great resources for you to learn about what our project is, to learn about service meshes in general. We have a lot of books which you can read for free. We have workshops, recordings, and a brief summary of what these were about. We also have learning paths, which is just a very recent addition. So you can take up courses and follow these steps, follow these modules in a systematic manner. And these are courses that will help you, like this one, set up Istio, and it will give you a very good idea about what service meshes are, how to manage them uh, in a very interactive way. And we also have interactive labs where we have a ton of these. And I'll not start this now because it takes a little time to open up. But basically, what you have is you have your terminal running on one side and you have a set of instructions on the other, and you can learn as you go along with it. It's a great tool. Like if you use it, you'll have hands-on experience of how to actually work with Meshery and several different service meshes that it supports. So I would suggest that you guys go and try these resources out. Not only try, once you actually get familiar, you can actually contribute enhancing these resources, maybe add more labs here. I know Aditya in the community has been working really hard on these labs, so you can contribute and learn from these resources as well. So
on that, is Aditya, any comment there on those interactive labs?
Yeah, so currently the labs for Linkerd and Kuma are working perfectly fine. The other labs, we are in a bit of pickle there. We are trying to solve it, and hopefully it will be running soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
So to repeat that, for those that are wanting to learn a service mesh and take one of these interactive labs, which one did you recommend?
The Linkerd and the Kuma.
And the Kuma, okay, the two on the right. And then for those that, since these are open source labs, it sounded like you were not only looking to create a couple of new ones, but also working through some issues on some existing ones.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And you're asking for people to do what?
Definitely, yeah. We have some problems, like you can run through the labs and figure out the problems, and anyone has any solution, then you can surely pitch in Slack channel, and it will be great help too.
Okay, so any questions regarding these, how to use, or anything else which comes to your mind? Any suggestions?
Yeah, just two quick things for me. The learning paths are, I think you already spoke to these a little bit, right? They incorporate a few of the interactive labs, but they also take you through actually it's something of a copy of training that we've been giving for a long time. So they take you through a workshop. In this case, I think you got a choice between Linkerd or Istio, and kind of understanding them, deploying a sample app, and using Meshery to do that, and sort of walking you through in a chapter by chapter basis. So this is nice. The other thing,
you can actually switch between Linkerd and Istio from here.
which is pretty cool. I wonder how many people noticed that. That's pretty cool. Something else briefly before you move on from this section is there's a good introductory report or short book that if you don't know about service meshes, I recommend you read. It's intended to introduce people to this ecosystem. I'll put a link to it in the Zoom chat in case you're up for it.
Right. So next we have what we call MeshMates in the community. So if you go to this page, we have 4 active MeshMates right now, and these are people you can actually interact with. They'll help you out every step of the way in the community to get you familiarized with the community. And wait 1 second. Yeah. So one more thing is, if you go to the members page, apart from MeshMates, we have a list of members, and you can actually filter members in the community based on the areas they work on. So we have a recognition given in the form of badges. So if a contributor has been working on one part of the project, suppose the Meshery or landscape, for a long time, they are given this recognition, and you can, if you want to get started with Meshery, you can actually filter members who have been working and get in touch with them. So these will be the best people to help you out in case you run into any troubles. We also have community managers who, as the name suggests, manage the way the community is functioning. So we have a page for them, and you can find them out and connect to us in case you have any problems, getting familiarized with the community or any other suggestions you would like to give. So yeah. I'll just pause for some time in case you have any questions regarding the sections I'm going through. So if not,
or if Bami or anyone else wants to talk to some of the next sections, that might be nice as well.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. So it's so good to see our newcomers in the community today. Okay, so for community managers, hi, Conan. For community managers, I think we have been like working on, Conan, and I think you three, we have been working on the blog post, enhancing the blog post, and for newcomers to suggest on the kind of topic, the kind of topics they want to see on the blog post. So we have been like reaching out to newcomers on a better topic. On better topic they want to see, they want to like read about. And we have been coming up with topics, and we are still open for this our new members that just joined us today that we are still excited to have. We are open, they give us feedback on topics they want us to write about, they want to read about, and also if they can contribute, because I was talking to some folks to this afternoon, and some of them are talking about how to contribute apart from coding. He was saying that he is not a developer, that he is a product manager. So, and he writes articles. So it's a good push for us if you could just come and write amazing blog posts for us. And also Piyush wrote an article on Meshery CLI, which is very, very amazing. And I'm going to DM the break after the meeting to send you the link of the article. So thank you. You can go on. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Pam. Back to you, Devapriya. Does anybody want to give an overview of some of the websites, some of these projects?
So a lot of people on the call have been contributing to the websites, and any of you want to give an overview, you're most welcome to.
I'll speak about the websites. Devapriya, if you would let me share my screen.
I think Lee is sharing. Yeah.
No, yeah. Okay, so I don't have the minutes open. Okay, all right. So basically, we have 5 websites, out of which 4 run on Jekyll. So, which is one of which is meshery.io. All these websites are up for contributing. Meshery. So, okay, wait. Let me just get the meeting minutes up.
By the way, actually, this is a great opportunity, even for Kunal, who is just calling this out. If you do me a favor, if you were to visit meet.layer5.io, it's kind of an easy, a memorable URL, and it'll land people here, which brings you to the calendar. Yes, that's good, but it also down below it has a bunch of links for the meeting minutes and other things. So. Sometimes this will save you in a pinch. Just, for a good note for everybody is the point.
I assume that I knew the link name, but yeah, that helped. Okay, so yeah, sites running on Jekyll. So like I mentioned, meshery.io is one such website. So Jekyll is basically a framework in which we write all the files are saved in a site folder, which are just static HTML files. So I've had a lot of these questions, like when you make changes to the website, you don't make changes to the file, you don't actually see it happening on the website when you're running it locally, or when you commit, it doesn't show up on the preview. It's because the site folder is generated when you run the make command. And since that is statically generated every time, if you make changes inside that folder, it won't show up on the UI. So the same folders are present outside the site folder in which you have to make changes. We use Jekyll because it's basic HTML and CSS. It's easy to understand and easy to pick up. That's why Jekyll is broadly used here. Another framework that we use is Gatsby, which is used in the Layer5.io website. I personally prefer Gatsby over Jekyll, but Lee says otherwise. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Moving on from meshery.io, one of the most important websites that we have is the docs for meshery.io, which also runs on Jekyll. We have an ongoing challenge of sorts. Many of the contributors have been interested in working on it, but haven't gotten through with it, is with the compatibility matrix. So basically what happens in the compatibility matrix right now is when the tests are run every day, all the test results get printed over here. So basically we would need a group by or a whereby where you would be able to group these results by the component or by the service mesh version, so that it would be easier to navigate and to see all the results. Another website that runs on Jekyll is the SMP spec. So one thing that we are planning to do for the SMP spec website is have a service mesh performance dashboard where we would be able to view the service mesh performance, the performance profiles, the results of these performance tests. Lee, would you like to elaborate more on the dashboard so that maybe some people would get a brief insight?
Yeah. So one of the there's a number of projects here. One of them is Service Mesh Performance. It's a CNCF project. Yesterday we were meeting with Equinix, which, if you're not familiar with them, they're they have a bunch of data centers around the world. They let you do hosting. They do data center management, and so we're using. We'll see how many nodes we use of theirs. We're going to take some bare metal servers, use Meshery to deploy Kubernetes, to deploy service meshes, different applications, different workloads on those meshes, and then generate a bunch of load against them, measure that load and the performance of those meshes. And then we'll have lots, we already do, we have 15,000 tests that people have run. There's tons of metrics and results from those tests. There needs to be a web-based user interface for interpreting those results to allow people to browse the results of the performance of that infrastructure. So there's an open call to action or open call to engagement in this project, Service Mesh Performance, to design and implement performance test results, like reports. Like, to the extent that anyone is giving that earnest consideration, I'll bring this up briefly. I can. So this is a design spec written by an engineer at Intel. Actually, Shin was presenting at last community meeting on kind of how we're going about doing that testing. But what is also noted is what Aditya is highlighting, and that is this call for participation to expose test results on a public dashboard on this website. There'll be a little bit of back-end work needed in Golang to provide a simple API to let people retrieve those results. It's primarily metrics. And then we need a design to figure out how we want to display those results. There's an example of how those results might be displayed here. It's kind of this is a different report that Meshery runs. This shows compatibility of service meshes with a different specification, but it gives an example of like what a public facing dashboard might look like. In the case of the effort that we're talking about right now, there might be more line charts on there, more metrics to show. And that's, then there's other aspects of that are related to the project. So if you're into DevOps, if I can abuse that term to say that if you're into DevOps and you want to work on a GitHub action, the automation that we'll be using to perform those tests will heavily leverage this GitHub action. GitHub action runs a lot today. It uses GitHub's hosted runners, meaning when it runs the environment that spins up the service meshes, the metrics that the load that's generated, that all runs inside of GitHub's hosted system, which is all right. It's not very pristine. It's not very powerful. It's not very long lived. And we don't have a lot of control over that. That's why we'll be using Equinix's systems. So we'll take, like I said, I'm not really sure how many nodes of theirs, how many servers of theirs we will take to do this. Quite a few. The configuration of those servers is listed here. So these are bare metal machines. We'll go borrow quite a few of them to go run these tests. So there's a lot of DevOps things to do here. Automated provisioning of Kubernetes, using Meshery to spin up those service meshes. The way that we would ideally be using Meshery to spin up those meshes is through this GitHub action, is in using self-hosted runners, runners being servers. So good. So for some of you, that was totally confusing because I didn't present it well. For others of you, it sounds super boring. But for the two of you that are interested, just message about it. And there are meetings that go on. There's open issues calling for action. So I'll drop a link to so part of this effort is stewarded within the CNCF's technical advisory group for networking. I'll put a link to these meeting minutes out there so you can look over this section. Good.
Okay, so I think that covers most of our front-end projects, the websites. Now, either Nitish or Ravi, if you're on the call, we can talk about Meshery UI and how you can get started with contributing to Meshery UI.
Yes, sure. I should share my screen. Yeah. So currently we have two branches where we are writing all of the UI code. That is, one is the master branch that you will be seeing, and another is the Meshery UI restructuring. So we need a lot of attention in this branch, Meshery UI restructuring, since we have been introducing a lot of changes, mainly in the state management. Why? Because we are lacking in that prospects currently. We had a lot of problems managing global states and then doing things gracefully. So if you want to learn about React Redux and get into the React and do anything with the UI, so yeah, that's a great place for you, since it is actually a newborn baby, so it's not you can just get your hands on very pretty easily. And you can also refer to this doc where we are prologuing. We are saying why we are doing this. We have been trying to answer all the questions about all the steps that we are taking in restructuring or redesigning the Meshery UI from scratch. So yeah, we have been introducing Redux Thunk observables. Why we are using it, it's here. Why we don't use context, it's all here. And if you have your own questions, like we should use this, so you can add your things on the FAQs, and that will be pretty very warmly welcomed. So feel free to do it. Other than that, yeah, this UI restructuring branch deals with a lot of UI components that we have currently in the Meshery UI. We want to replicate all those things into this branch where we are doing things a lot in a better way. So this is the Excel file. Sorry, it is the Google Docs spreadsheet where we are tracking all these things. So you are seeing a lot of things have been already done, have been picked up by people, delivered. A lot of things are in progress, and there has been a lot of things that is not mentioned here. So feel free to add things here, add items, then do work doing all these things. It's purely So another thing is so the way of spinning up the two branches are pretty different. Just the difference is just in port number. So you will be expecting Meshery UI in port 9081, but this Meshery restructuring branch on port 4001, I guess. So these are the you have to start these two branches, like these two portion of the codes, pretty differently, and that's why we have this contribution guide, and it's all here inside this. So I have not been talking anything new, so this is all here, so you can manage anything. So I think that was all for this. And yeah, we definitely need some of you to work on it, like collaborate and do things. Yeah. Most of you, not so. Pardon my grammar. Silence. So
you killed it, man. You killed it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all.
Not an awkward silence. I get it.
Yeah, no. By the way, there's a number of folks who jumped into the community not too long ago and are doing some pretty good things already. Some of it's I'm surprised by some of it. Some of them are on the call like Hirsch, and some of them aren't. But yeah, so take Abhi up on his offer. If you Redux is something you're into. If you want to design what that new UI looks like, good, jump into Figma. There's a ton of work in there.
Yes. Forget the Figma part too. So since we are redesigning all the things, what could be better than designing it better? So if you know a little of Figma, then just jump onto the Figma files. Lee will give you permission for sure, right? And yeah, you will be getting started. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that covers Meshery UI and the restructuring. We can move on to Meshery CLI, but I don't think Piyush is on the call. So Lee, would you like to give intro about Meshery CLI?
Yeah, sure. Hey, so by the way, today's community call is a little bit different. We're going through what we'd otherwise go through in the newcomers call, which means today's call, much like many of the calls, they're very instructive. There's a lot of knowledge being shared. So if you're here to glean that knowledge or to share that knowledge with others, jump in, interrupt. It's a welcomed interruption. Who's here engaged in Golang? Who wants to do Golang? Who's already doing Golang here? There's a few of you on the call who are. And if there's no one that, okay, so Osama is, all right. And Debian. Good. Meshery CTL can be is the command line client for Meshery. It can be a nice way of starting or getting deeper with Golang because it's a little more functional in nature, a little more procedural. There are some central structs, some central objects to use, but it's not horrifically complex. A lot of times when you're trying to make something inside of Meshery's CLI, it's a static binary that gets invoked for a minute, for 2 seconds or a minute. Like it isn't necessarily, it's not an ongoing process that's open and listening. So it's less complex in terms of a code base to get into. Most of the time when you're working with a single command, like it's one code file, like it's one procedural thing that you're kind of working through. So there are any number of open issues that have Meshery CTL tagged on there. There's blogs on how to get started. There's recorded tutorials on how to get started. There's intros to Golang. There's a ton. Sometimes people will graduate from Meshery CTL into Meshery Server or into any of the Meshery's components. They all have some Golang. There's some gRPC. There's some cloud events. There's some NATs. There's a long list of other things. I encourage anyone who's here just trying to get a foothold on an area of any of the projects. I encourage everybody to start super, super, super small, as small as you can. Put a period on the end of a sentence somewhere. Like change, fix the spelling or something, like just this small, is just small, 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 small. Then you'll be successful. You'll be successful putting the period on the end of that sentence. Then you'll go to the next one. You'll actually correct the spelling. Then you'll correct the prepositional phrase. And then you'll move into getting off of grammar and like doing something, like start small, build successes, share with others as you go. Be kind. Yep. Anybody got specific questions about Meshery CTL? There really are recorded talks about tutorials about how to start there. And so Subradip, thanks for chiming in, by the way. If you try to dive into the Meshery's V07 rewrite, perfect. There's a spreadsheet that's linked right here that will kind of point out different areas of need. If you find that it's something of a head scratcher, like it's still, if you're not quite there yet, another like soft landing spot or place to start and then kind of graduate into Meshery UI would be the Layer5.io website itself. It runs on Gatsby as a framework, but it uses JSX, but it uses React. So just, if first you try and don't succeed, go back to something much smaller. Start small, start small. And then, so Alvin, you're a major risk in my mind. I love that you're here saying you want to do UX. It is the most failed area of contribution. So statistically, you're set up for failure, my friend. That's not what we want. If you haven't filled in a community member form, do that. One of the community managers, you can drop them your email. They'll get you access to the Figma design files. There are 3 of them. I'll give, there's a recording about how to get started, by the way, in Figma, or how to use Figma here with us, not necessarily to teach you Figma, because that's something you generally already have a handle on. Not that you won't necessarily learn more here, but I'm bringing up one of the design files to help sort of introduce this topic. And then we'll point out the recording where I ramble on about some of the same stuff I'm about to talk about. And that is sort of how to engage, how to not to step on other designers' toes, how do you know if something's in draft or approved, or what, like, how do you nav these different things? Like what's going on in here and how is this laid out? Things like that. Alvin, there's, as you wade through that, as you sort of get, you dip your toes into this, we can point out a couple of relatively smallish items to potentially go and be successful with, and then build you into, or if you're ready for massively huge things right now, that's perfect. Let's do massively huge things. But if you're not, let's start with something super small. Here's one thing. Yash might still be on the call. He was recently going to do a prototype. So there's a bit of so we're using Material UI as the design language here, but there are, there's some custom type, well, not custom. There's some defined typography and some custom colors or defined color. There's logos and there's some components that have been built out and et cetera. Like, there's some good things happening. Some elements that get reused, Figma components, sure, a couple of them. There's lots of mess. Just like you get 500 plus contributors working on stuff here, you get a mess. One of the more recent things, just an example of something small to start with, is within Meshery itself. By the way, this is the Meshery design file. There's 2 other design files that focus on websites and things. So those could also be the right place to start. in Meshery, there's a menu on the left-hand side of the screen. Whoops, the left-hand side of the screen. It generally looks something like this. Okay, good. You can collapse it and it looks kind of like this. In Figma, there isn't a prototype. So we don't really have something to interact with to kind of check out what happens when a user clicks on something. So it'd be nice to have a prototype. Yash, are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm on.
Do you want to invite Alvin to collaborate here with you? Do you want to kind of speak about the work in progress?
I made this design. This was a design. I just made a component, and it works. The prototype works in my file, but when I shifted it here, it just the buttons don't work that well. Yeah, it just don't. All the prototypes are there. They're all connected, but it's not what was expected. I also have a video. Let me just share a link of that.
So he has proof that it was working, but yeah. So it's a great place. There's a bunch. There's an endless amount of UX to be done. There's both kind of there's UX is a massive term, by the way. So don't think that that folks don't understand the difference between visual design, user research, personas and system flow and user tasks, and like there's many careers inside of each of these areas. But so there's a little bit of a combination of kind of two things happening here: a little bit of visual design, a little bit of user interaction, user experience being done. Cool. People get me started talking about the projects, and then I can't stop. So let me hand it back to Alvin or others. Just any questions? Hand the ball back to Priya.
So yeah, design is a very big necessity right now in all of our projects. So design, and along with that, we have a lot of writing stuff. So you can also make non-code contributions over here. So we've talked about design. Another thing which I always talk about and will talk about again is writing. So writing, you can do it in two forms right now on our Layer5 website, and there are also blogs in our other websites, but we mostly publish over here. So as you can see, these are all blogs by our community members, and you can come up with your own blog. Suppose you're working on Meshery or Meshery UI or some area, and you come up with a major enhancement. You can write up a blog about that, how the inspirations struck, or what did you refer to while going along with it. So you can come up with blogs and you can actually publish them here. Just start up a draft. We have a Slack channel, the Blog Kitchen. So if you're at all into writing, you can join that and share your work with us. Apart from blogs, we also have this new resources section. So the main difference is blogs, as you can see, they have a personal touch to it. So these can involve your opinions, these can involve your experiences, or they can be technical pieces of information, technical pieces of work. But again, from your point of view, resources are meant to be timeless. So blogs, like we have categories like older blogs, newer blogs. Resources are timeless, and they are catering to the more technical needs. So the idea is to create a resource library where you can get all the information you can possibly question. All your questions will get answered over here. So resources, various types of resources, blogs as well. So like I said, blogs can be anything. So we have included blogs here as well. Articles, demos, case studies about various technologies, our products, or any other technology which will be helpful. And these, if you want to write resources, of course, you have to refer to the various dogs that are available, not just our dogs, the other dogs, everything. And you can come up with resources, which again are timeless and more technical pieces of information. So if you're into writing, you can come up with these stuff. So that is included in non-code contribution. Any questions? We have discussed almost all areas of work. So anyone here who has questions of how to get started, or if you already have any suggestions of any kind. And in design, just to point out, it's not just designing our websites or designing Meshery UI or anything. You can come up with small things. You can come up with, suppose, say, an animation, or designing small elements of sorts. So you reach out to us and we can help you get started. So any suggestions, any questions on whatever we just talked about, whatever you found out? Or anything that we missed out and you are working on and you want to talk about and attract other contributors to? Bami, you can go ahead. Raise your hand.
Okay. Yeah. Hello again, everybody. So what I just want to talk about is the use of our discourse. I want to encourage every one of us here to make use of the discourse channel. Make all announcements. If you have any questions, put it there. If you have any topic you want to talk about, you can also put it there. If you want to post any article, any you want to write about any blog, you can give us the preview. You can write it there. If you have any question for both the Discourse forum, yes, the Discourse forum, thank you. If you have any questions for MeshMate or the community managers or anybody, you can always put it there. So please always visit our Discourse forum and engage there too. It's important because it even keeps, it saves our information. It saves it better than Slack. Slack loses information as time goes on. Like when it gets too long, you find out that you are missing some chats. But if you ask all these questions on Discourse, you'll be able to refer to it whenever we need it again. So that's just a call out for that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say that Bami and a couple of others have talked about what they're going to do for those that have been really active toward the end of the month. So a lot of times when a post is created, different people might jump in and answer. And this isn't a particularly special forum in terms of its functionality. So it has common functionality like marking a post, or I'm sorry, marking a response as a solution. And so that occasionally happens, and people like Bami pay attention to that. Such that they're tracking who's answering the most questions and that kind of a thing. So yeah, there might be some tweets about some of this stuff at some point. By the way, Kunal recently made a post, well, a few, I suspect, but one of those was calling out what I hope is like the last release candidate for Meshery v0 6.0. So we're like this close to having that release out. And the longer that it takes for us to do it, the bigger it gets. It's almost like a daunting task to think about writing up all the features that are inside of it and talking about it. But one of the contributors here, one of the MeshMates, MeshMate Aditya Krishna, not the other MeshMate Aditya, is, well, part of his contributions have to do with video editing. So he'll often edit the community meetings that we're having right now. He'll record those. He'll put an intro and an outro on them, kind of spruce them up. One of the things that he's working on right now is a project demo video, because it, as people come by and check out the various projects, the users and contributors want to see and understand what the project is about. And some of you out there are as lazy as me and just want to watch a stinking video for 30 seconds to see if you're interested or not. And so anyway, there's a couple of things to take away from what I just said. One is that there's video editing happening, and that's a place to engage. We've been trying to put some time into Adobe After Effects as a tool to develop some competency around and to kind of share those templates and to reuse them as different project demo videos are created. So hopefully maybe to start with on meshery.io, hopefully soon, all of us would see an intro video to what Meshery does. But there's a bunch of those needed. So, yeah. We're just about at the top of the hour. Anybody have any questions? Last comments? Bami's call out to the discussion forum is quite a good comment. Go get active there. Anything? Yeah. Anybody got any complaints? Like we don't solicit enough. If you have a complaint, by the way, you can just see yourself. I don't know. you should say it. You should bring it up, or suggestions about how to make something better. So Superdip just said, "Hey, I just had a suggestion." Like Abhi had said earlier when he was showing Meshery UI. Most suggestions are warmly embraced. Like, you're probably right. It probably could be better, or there probably could be something new. And so just don't bring dumb suggestions, because there's a lot of, no, just like, there aren't dumb suggestions, I guess is the point. It's like, sometimes the suggestions aren't carried forward. There's a couple of reasons. There's like maybe 2 reasons why that is most often the case. Like most often, if they aren't carried forward, a couple of reasons why. The biggest reason, probably most frequently, is it's like a great suggestion. It's just like, that's hard. Or like, there aren't enough people here to really get that over the line, like to support that and make it happen. That's most often the case. Sometimes a suggestion is discussed and set to the side because it was just like by design, or the person just didn't understand that it was by design. I'll share this in the last couple of minutes that we have, just as an example. Deborah Priya, if you were to navigate to layer5.io, so layer5.io has been contributed to by a little over 250 people. So a lot of people to thank for what is a pretty, it's a pretty well done site. If you scroll down, somewhere around halfway or something, of course we need better pictures, so we keep going. Okay, here, actually right there, where there's this, just above the black section, there's this collection of project names. Like, hey, we're into these projects and we participate, and we do, and there's a lot of them. There's actually more of them than are represented. So this is an example. Like, it's about once a month, someone will come in and say, oh, hey, these are getting cut off. Like, that's a bug, we should probably fix that. It's like, well, yeah, maybe you're right. Although it's just by design, it's just intended to give people the sense that like, there's a lot of projects and we can't list them all. There's not room. So anyway, random explanation about why sometimes things aren't embraced. It's usually almost all the time because it's like the suggestion is embraced, let's rally support around it so that we could actually collectively do that. Because even a small item is generally bigger than just one person. Even if that small item is carried forward, then how does the community sustain that going forward? Anybody else have thoughts? It's been pleasant to share this hour with all of you. It's really nice to see so many familiar names. MeshMate Krishna, you might have missed when I was poking at you earlier, but your ears were burning. So,
hi, Lee. Sorry, I didn't have power here, so.
Oh yeah. Oh sure. What do you? Yeah. You mean you actually have to eat? Okay, fine. Great.
Internet
anyway.
issues. Sorry.
Okay, very nice to see everybody. I think that's probably a wrap. Catch everybody. Maybe some of you on the website's call on Monday. So
Thank
nice
you.
to see you.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye bye.